I want to explain clearly how money is always a tool of division. Most people haven't really experienced solving their problems without money. When you're little, you might not use money, and then you don't really have problems that your parents aren't solving, depending on your situation. Or you become a hustler and you actually do start making money young. Regardless, whenever you become a money user, then you start to think that money is the solution to all problems. The problem with that is it only solves individual problems individually, and it is unable to solve collective problems, which are all the big problems we're facing today, especially global warming and other environmental issues. When you solve an individual problem, it only solves your problem and nobody else's, and it doesn't make it any easier for anyone else to solve their problem. In fact, often it makes it harder. The more people who buy something, the more expensive that thing becomes because of supply and demand. So, in a way, if we think of money as solving problems, it has this throttling effect where it will always only solve the richer people's problems, or it will disproportionately solve rich people's problems, solve fewer poor people's problems, and leave them with more problems remaining. People get stuck on the individualism and thinking they can just hustle harder or positive thinking, but it's like this is an equation. There's rich and poor. I understand from the point of individual survival that you think it's necessary to just double down and do it anyway, even as everything gets worse. But I'm trying to show you that there's a better way for all of us, and that's to solve our problems collectively. There are lots of examples of this. Like, let's say I need water. Okay, now I need to get a job and turn the water on at my apartment. Or I need to dig a well. Or I need to filter water from a river. First of all, a lot of people will default to the first one just because, the other stuff's weird or different, or I don't feel like doing that. But you're making a lot of work for yourself. You're going into some corporation, you're giving up your most valuable thing, which is your time and your energy, and you're just handing over your life force energy to the corporation. So instead of pursuing your own goals, you're just pursuing their goals for them. And I guess your only goal is to get the money so you can turn the water on. So while they're doing all this crazy stuff that's probably horrible for the world, all you've done is turn your water on and pay the rent maybe. But you could have skipped the whole thing and gone down to the river, right? And just filtered the water out. I mean, we have great water filters these days too. There's one that's really tiny that you can just put on the end of a water bottle. So if you solve problems collectively, you solve the problem for more than yourself. So if I went down to the river and filtered a ton of water and bring it back up the hill, maybe for, to make it more realistic, let's say there's only 5 people there, so I can actually cart the water up there and it's not impossible. And now 5 people have water instead of one person. And quite frankly, it was easier than working at a corporation, and it cost less to the environment because you weren't putting your energy into destroying the environment. In this example, I'm not trying to say it's all about no capitalism versus capitalism, because you would have to maybe buy the water filter. But we can even make another example out of that. If you do buy the water filter, then when the water filter breaks, you don't know what to do and you need more money so you can buy it again. But if you learn how to make a water filter, which can be as easy as I saw one way to do it was actually using a branch. You have to make sure to use the right branch, so don't just use any old branch. But you can just get water to wick through a branch down into another bottle. Another way that is maybe more widely known is just put an old t-shirt and a bunch of sand, a bunch of charcoal, a bunch more sand, but another t-shirt, more charcoal. You can just make a water filter. And then it's a collective project. Instead of like being alone in a cubicle working in a corporation to make the money to get the water, you can just be like with your friends, hey, let's go down to the river. I'll show you guys how to build a water filter. And then it's not only your water filter, it's everyone's water filter. And since you're solving more than your own problem, you now have community and they can solve your problem also. And since you showed them how to make the water filter, next time the water filter's too old, someone else might just make it without you. And now you have a water filter you can use. So what I'm trying to show is when you solve problems collectively, there's this collective abundance that happens almost immediately. When people talk about the abundance of the gift economy, it's not like some abstract future thing like maybe one day it could feel more abundant if we did things this way. No, this is a direct and immediate experience from the second you start to think differently. You start to give more, you start to solve problems collectively, you start to live more equitably, but you realize you don't have as many problems anymore. You're actually more relaxed, you have community, you don't look like a fancy person, but you're happier. You're not alone in a cubicle, feeling alone in the world, like, I can't do anything, I need money to solve all my problems, I'm gonna die. Like, that's how it feels to live in the money world. Ironically, when you have no money at all, it feels relaxing. It's like, there's no rush. There's nothing you have to do except for like drink water and go to the bathroom. And they do try to make it hard to go to the bathroom, locking all the bathrooms, but it's not impossible to find a patch of woods and dig a hole, or, you know what I mean? There's a lot of solutions to these problems. The thing is, some solutions do need to be solved collectively. Like, it is bad if everyone was digging a hole and putting poop in it. And so it's tough that the people who hold on to the power and the money do stuff like lock all their bathrooms. Like, they're not looking out for humanity, they're just looking out for their own interests. We need a shift where people look out for each other. And while we're doing that, they're not going to look out for us back. We're going to have to just get more people together and just look out for each other harder. And just to solve this specific example, you would probably end up making a compost toilet. It's not impossible. You could use a compost toilet with a group of maybe 4 people for like a year, and then you put it in like a wooden pallet thing that's held off the ground for another year, and then you kind of you can actually use that as manure after that. And then at that point you'd have the next year's poop to put out. So you have to have somewhere to put like a block of poop. That's the other reason people love capitalism, is they just want to stay away from solving the difficult issues, and they think stuff's weird and gross, and they just want to feel like they're above other people, basically. And you know what? That's fucked up to begin with. But also, I want you to know, like, not everyone's going to be the person building the compost toilet. There is such a thing as division of labor even without capitalism. Some people are better at some things, some people are better at other things. And like I said in another video, if you look at humanity as a puzzle, and you see like let's say the puzzle's a square when it's all put together. You look at it, it's a square. When you take it apart, it's all these little puzzle pieces that look all scraggly, but they all look broken in a way, and you're comparing them to the square. Like, none of these are squares, but you don't want to be a square and go work in a cubicle in a corporation. You want to be that unique individual who you actually are, and to do that you have to accept that everyone else is also these unique individuals, and that you can't keep trying to be that square and separating yourself from everyone, trying to feel above people, trying to make more money. You need to accept that we're all just puzzle pieces, and we need to fit together, or else the world will be destroyed by this capitalism thing. So I hope that makes sense. That, the more you individually pursue solutions to your problems, the more you're actually creating the collective problems we're having trouble solving. And the more you solve your problems collectively, the more the problems are just solved already for everyone, and you're not stuck in this cycle of trying to get the money to solve the problems because you already solved the problem, or someone you know did because you solved a different problem. Just a few people working together, even, 3 or 4 people, and all of a sudden it seems like you don't have any problems anymore. But everyone's so busy, like, carting themselves back and forth, trying to make money and trying to spend money, that they're not getting the experience of normal human life. And they don't realize what they're caught up in. And that treadmill you're on is just not allowing you the time to realize it's not that difficult if you just look at it differently. So maybe next time, if your rent's not paid, just set up a tent somewhere. If your water's turned off, just go down to the river and filter some water. Like, life isn't as hard as you think if you think outside the box and try to not be a square, and instead be vulnerable enough to think, like, I'm a scraggly, fucked up puzzle piece, and this world's really only going to work out if we just allow ourselves to fit together, to come together and solve our problems together instead of individually. Thanks for listening.